Finally, a game worth playing in 2023. I know. There are no pigs flying, hell's not frozen over, everything is normal. You be enjoying the game in 2023 is a rare sight. But, fellas, I can say I did have fun in this game. I enjoyed it. Is it worth 60? I mean, you'll have to wait to the end, but I think it is $60, by the way. It's not 70, but I think it's pretty good. As you guys seen when I was streaming, I did enjoy it. I said it multiple times. I know this game is not very popular. People are not talking about it. I did go on YouTube. I don't see too many people, talking about it. I don't even think IGN talked about this game. So I don't know. I might be wrong about that, but I haven't seen too many people talking about this game. It's not too popular, and I think that's a good thing, to be honest. Like I said on the stream, I think then they can just stick to their core audience, and they can keep pleasing their core audience, like game after game out and game in, or whatever the saying is. But they can continue to please their audience. I think that's a good thing that you don't have massive amount of people playing this game. Normies are not coming in and infiltrating, despite I would be considered a newcomer because I haven't really played the Armored Core games. The only one I played was 2 on stream, but that was for a little bit. But I will say this is my first Armored Core, and I can safely say, fellas, I enjoyed it. It's not a masterpiece, but I will say it is, it's good. So without further ado, let's just get straight into this. Now, the gameplay is what makes up this game, and I can say the gameplay is pretty fun. Those that say that this is a Souls game or Dark Souls game with robots, I would actually argue it's not, because you do not have any sort of iframes in this game. I've beaten all of the bosses, and I can say even if you think you dodge at the right time, because there is a dodge button if you move the L stick a certain way, back, forth, left, or right, or forward. You can dodge forward, left, right, or back, right? And if you press square, also you got to press both square and the L stick, or you got to move the L stick and press square, right? So that is the central dodge. That's the dodge in this game. And I will say, no matter if you think you dodged correctly or on time, there's no iframe. So you just have to not be in the way of any attack that the enemies sending at you. There are melee attacks in this game, and you can't just strafe straight through them or strafe sideways and get a iframe through them. So that's what I would take out of this game. And also the bosses are not nearly as hard to call it a Souls game. And also you could just switch your builds on the fly. You can literally just switch your build on the fly, and the game is very forgiving in that way. Also, you could die multiple times and no consequences. You can die and just get your health back, like certain times where I would go throughout a mission, because usually you go through a mission, you fight certain little enemies, right, like little robots, like okay, you can compare that to Souls. You fight little enemies, and then you get to the end of the mission and there's a boss, right? So if I've already used all my healing packs, I would usually just die and then get all of them back and restart from checkpoint and get all of them back just so I can fight the boss. So to be honest, and sometimes before you even get to the boss, you will get they will resupply you. Your companion will give you more supplies, and you can just then fight the boss. So either way, it's pretty forgiving. It's not like Souls where you lose your souls, it's over, or the bosses are extremely difficult. The little enemies that before you get to the boss are pretty difficult. I wouldn't say that is in this game, because I will say the game did start off pretty easy. Yes, the difficulty spiked, but it wasn't like pulling teeth and it hurt spiked. It didn't go up that high. It didn't really get that difficult. It was still hard, pretty challenging. I will say you won't beat every boss your first try. Well, maybe if you cheese like I did. I actually figured out a cheese. I didn't go on YouTube. I didn't know anything. I played this game without checking YouTube, and I figure out a cheese that I could do, and it's not the double bubble guns. I will talk about that probably later on, but I will say I did figure out a cheese, and it gotten easier. There were certain bosses I did beat on my first try, but they weren't the major bosses. So there are little bosses, like mini bosses you could fight, and then there are major bosses, like big bosses that you would not be able to beat in your first try. So I will say the game is pretty challenging, but it's not so challenging where it's like pretty difficult. But I will say, yes, it's not. I didn't feel like, and you can't go playing this game gun blazing, shooting everywhere, and just start, because certain guns will run out of ammo. Your left shoulder, your right shoulder would run out of ammo. So you can't go in the game just start shooting and pressing buttons. You actually have to go in and strategically you gotta actually take your time and learn the boss and see what they do, so that, and also the bosses move so much, so you have to watch them and see what they do so that you can find some type of exploit. And I know that's like the most recent Souls, like it sounds like Elden Ring, but it's not the same. You can't just go in and start dodging and just start shooting. You actually got to use your shoulders and your weapons accurately. You can't just go in and just start gun blazing. So to me, it doesn't feel like a Souls game. It feels like a whole different game. It has its own thing going. But yes, I can see the resemblance with Souls, but I wouldn't say it's strictly Souls with robots. Now, there is a lock-on feature in this game, and I don't know if it's, if this was in the older game, but I know when I played Armored Core 2, there was no lock-on feature. It's just strictly, you had to, there's a radius, there's a little circle around your mech, and whatever's in that circle, you get to lock on aim to. But if they're not in it, you won't be able to automatically lock onto them. But in this game, you can actually just hold the R stick and it would automatically lock onto the boss, right? But I will say it is essential to have the lock-on system in this game. I say this because they have the bosses moving extremely fast, nearly like you won't be able to track the bosses in time. They move way too fast, especially the end boss. And then there's this other boss named Ibis that you get to fight. But I will say the bosses are very fast. I don't think you can build a mech that's as fast as those bosses. I mean, let's take the Ibis boss or the Ibis Koro, I think that's what it is, or Ibis series, I think the name is. I'll put it on the screen. But this boss is extremely fast. It took me all the way to this boss to figure out that you could actually change your sensitivity. So I've been playing the game with just a low sensitivity, and I was asking myself, why am I so frustrated, and why can't I track some of the slowest bosses? Like, there's this spider boss I fought. It's not really that fast, but I still couldn't track it. So when I finally got to this Ibis boss, I noticed, I went into the setting and I've seen that you could change your sensitivity. That is my recommendation to you. If you're gonna play this game, change your sensitivity, put it a little bit higher, unless you're just very good at, or you only can handle the lower sensitivities. I think the game it was a force for me. I had to switch my sensitivity up higher, and it took me to the end boss to figure out that you can lock on the bosses. So the whole time I was trying to manually follow the bosses, and that's why I was missing all of my shots. So in this game, you have to lock on to the enemy. That's how you get all your shots. Like you have your shoulders. You can have missiles on your shoulders of your mech, right? So if you're not locked on, it will not hit the bosses. Certain missiles will go up, right? And then they will stay there for a minute, and it will have to come down and impact on the enemy. But sometimes the enemy will be so fast moving everywhere, your missiles will not hit. So you will have to literally, there's a crosshair in the middle of your middle of the game, and you have to lock it on into the enemy. Once it's locked on, then if you do disperse those missiles, then it would actually have an impact on the boss. But it is so difficult to actually stay locked on the bosses that they had to implement this lock-on system. And I don't know, again, I don't know if it was an old one. From when I played, I didn't play Armored Core 3, 4, but I did play 2, and there were no lock-on system at all. So you had to strictly, you know, follow the enemies around, and mind you, that was pretty difficult. But I will say, in this game, if they didn't have the lock-on feature, I think this would have been the hardest thing to play, and it would have been the most annoying thing to game to play, because there were certain bosses I was struggling badly because I didn't use the lock-on system. And sometimes you cannot see. Speaking of the lock-on system, I think the camera is way too close to your mech. I think they should have open it a little bit wider, and I think that's some of the problems with Souls. Now I'm saying this, that's some of the problem with some of the Souls games. The camera is too close to your player. Sometimes you gotta pan it out so I can see certain things. Like most of the time when the enemies are flying everywhere, going, especially the mech robots. Now there are two different types. Before I get into my point, there are two different type of bosses. There are those that are just strictly the ACs, and then there are like the tanky bosses that takes a lot of bullets, but they're pretty big, but it would rush at you, and they cannot fly and they cannot move. They only strictly can stay on the ground. But when you're fighting those tanky bosses, it's fun. You can go in gun blazing, and it's fun to just shoot around and go crazy. But when you're fighting those ACs that move a lot, that flies everywhere, left and right, up and down, there some of them only go by, like they would literally, like the end boss would literally go behind you most of the time of the fight. You would have to have the lock-on system. If you don't use it, you will die. You will not be able to beat the boss. So certain bosses, I guess you can maybe take that as a negative. Certain bosses strictly forces you to use the lock-on system, and I will say, without the lock-on system, you would not be able to beat the bosses, man. Some of them, and with the camera being too close to your mech, certain times you can't see what's happening. The boss will fly over you and you won't be able to see it. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not fast enough, you won't be able to beat these bosses, especially the AC bosses. But like I said, you're right. So the lock-on system is essential in this game, and I feel like without it, it's GG. And also, I would recommend turn up your sensitivity also, so that at least you'll be able to track on the bosses if you're not using the lock-on system. Even though the game automatically has like a lock-on system if you're close enough to the bosses, but there's a big lock-on system where even if the boss runs behind you or teleports behind you or flies behind you, your robot would automatically turn around and, you know, track it down, which I will say is an easy mode. But because I figured that out at the end, and I decimated the end boss. Literally, I overpowered it because I figured out this lock-on system. And I feel like if I would have figured this out throughout the main part of the game, the first half of the game, I would have dominated every boss. I probably would be able to beat bosses in 2 tries, 3 tries maybe. But you know, that's that right there. The lock-on system, it is essential. It was needed because of how they designed the bosses. And like I said, you can't go all gun blazing and shooting missiles everywhere because the game doesn't allow you to. You actually have to position yourself a certain way, or be able to lock on the boss to be able to send all your missiles. Now, also, you can run out of ammo the whole time. Like, you can play the game, you can play a boss and run out of ammo. Now, at that point, you're actually done. You can't fight the boss technically. You will have to like melee the boss the whole time. But you will actually have to restart your whole boss run if you run out of ammo. And this is why I say that you shouldn't go in. You can't go in gun blazing. Like, I used the 2 machine guns. This is the cheese I figured out while playing. You could just use 2 miniguns and literally break the bosses apart, man. There was this boss I fought, I don't remember, but I remember it wasn't a big boss, but it was like a mini AC, and I fought it my first try. I beat it. Why? Because of the miniguns are OP. I was thinking, imagine if I had a tank build with the miniguns and just strictly missiles. I think I would just decimate the game. I think it would just be easy mode. But I think being fast, like I am in this game, I figured out you could be like very quick depending on your load, right? So if you just have 2 miniguns and 2 bubble guns, you could decimate the game. I think I really killed the end boss. Like, I figured out the loophole of the end boss, and that was because I noticed that the end boss would like bring a shield, right? And I noticed that the bubble guns, I call them the bubble guns, but I think they're pulse rifles. I don't know, I don't remember the name, but I'll put them on the screen. But they are, I call them bubble guns because it seemed like they're shooting bubbles out, but or the stream called it bubble guns, but whatever, right? So you shooting the bubble guns are 4 shields that the boss will put up. Like I think it's called, I don't know if it's like some energy shield, but it looks like it. So I figured out that you would have to use the bubble guns, right? to take out the shield, and then I would use my minigun to just eat the enemy's health alive, man. I'm telling you, using the miniguns are cheese. I think this is what I kind of enjoy about this game also, is there's a lot of cheese also. You can cheese the bosses. I think that's pretty fun. And once you figure out the cheese for yourself, I think, and there's multiple cheese too. It's not just one, but the cheese I used were the 2 miniguns, and I was just flying everywhere. Like I was just moving left, right, forward. Those are the only time you can gun blaze, but you cannot gun blaze the main bosses, because again, you do run out of ammo, and you have to go in actually watching the boss and figuring out a time you can shoot them, because it is essential to keep your ammo, and you will run out of them if you just continue to just go in and start spamming shooting and missiles, right? So I think that's a cool part of this game. You actually got to go in and but it's still not as difficult, because once you figure out that loophole, it is pretty good. Like you can just go through the game. Okay, I don't have to go in with gun blazing, I'm shooting. But I think it is cool to have like that part, just, you know, to force a player not to just go in and just start shooting. And, you know, especially those builds that have like the melee builds and the shotgun builds that does heavy damage. You can't just go in and just start shooting out of nowhere. They actually balance it pretty well there. And I will say, despite there's still cheese, they kind of balance it pretty well. But you can't go in gun blazing, you can't go in shooting and all happy trigger finger or all that. No, you can't do that in this game, because again, you will run out of ammo. So let's talk about the bosses real quick. I think the bosses are pretty good. Some of them look pretty cool. I will say I love how they just kept it strictly robots. But I will say also some of them are just very, very bullet spongy. I think it was the first boss I fought. I think this might be the boss, like if any newcomers are coming into this game, they might quit. If you remember Dark Souls 1, Orm and Steen, if you remember those guys, remember those were the bosses that would stop players from playing the game. This boss, I forgot the name, but I'll put it on the screen. This boss might be the one that stopped everybody from playing. This one took me forever to beat. This was the hardest boss I've actually, not the hardest boss actually, but I will say this was the one that took me the longest to beat. And I will say this one was very bullet spongy, and there was a couple more in the game that were pretty bullet spongy. Even though I tried everything, I tried every, you know, type of weapons I could on them, but they were pretty hard. They took a lot of ammo, and sometime I would just, like I said before, I would run out of ammo throughout that boss fight, right? So then I'll have to restart over and over. And I think that's just part of the bosses, but I will say they look pretty good. They have all of them have a unique design. Well, not all of them, I would say. Some of the ACs look the same. Only the major bosses have a unique design, I would say. Like you had the big tank that you fought in the beginning. Then you had that first boss I talked about that was pretty bullet spongy. And then you had this other tank boss. Then you had this spider boss, which was pretty cool. I think that was my favorite one of all of them. Then you had the end boss, of course, which looked like a normal AC. Then you had the Koro boss, which was one of the fastest bosses. Actually, the end boss is way faster, but this one was extremely fast. But the thing is, I did find loopholes with you would think the Koro boss would be the hardest boss, but I had a harder time with a generic AC than I did with the Koro boss, even the end boss. I don't know if it's just because I learned a couple things, but my goodness, there's a loophole with the Koro boss. I give it to you. Spoilers if you want to skip this part, right? Those Koro balls, right? Usually you could just wait till he does this move, which he will do, but don't ever just keep going to the side with him, because he has this auto aim. I think that's what I also want to speak about. I'll speak about that later on, but he has this auto aim he does. Man, it is so annoying. But the loophole is he will go in the air and he will send amount of bullets down on you, and then he will come down and do a melee. So if you just wait till he goes up and then go to the right, or go to the left, actually dodge to the left as he does the bullet, and then when he's coming down to do the melee, you dodge to the left again, you will instantly have a easy opening. And this happens for both phases, and it became the easiest boss after that. Once I found that loophole, it was literally survival of the fittest. If I could just survive all of the other things it throws at me until that move happens, and then bam. And I will say I guess you could take that as a bad, but I would say that's what made the game easy. But again, I think the bosses, they are pretty cool, unique. The major bosses at that, they're pretty unique. But I will say some of the ACs are bullet sponges, and that can get pretty annoying most of the time. But after that, the bosses are okay. They're pretty cool. Again, like I said, they're pretty unique designs. I will say my favorite boss had to be the spider boss. I don't know, something about its second phase which it's just pretty unique. But again, I'll put it on the screen. I don't want to spoil it too much, but that's the boss that I enjoyed the most though. Now, this game doesn't have the best graphics, but I will say the game looks beautiful at certain parts. And my favorite part, I'll just give you my favorite part. My favorite area, I will say, has to be before you fight the Koro. Now, or the Koro boss, right? Now, just something about a city underneath what looks like another city is just pleasing to the eye. I think just all the buildings leaning to the side, some of them are broken down, rusty and dust everywhere. I think that is a very pleasing look. And just them having a lot of building underneath that city, like all of those ruins, I think it's just pretty good looking. I'll put it on the screen. But I will say this game can look good at some time. Yeah, and some parts, I will admit, look pretty generic. They are, I would say most, or maybe almost most of the game missions or areas look pretty generic. But I think there are certain parts I'm like, man, this looks pretty good. And again, I'm not a big graphics guy, and this is why I never praise graphics. But when it comes to environments that looks pretty good and well designed, I have to give it credit. And I will say certain parts of this game did have that. And my favorite, like I said, had to be before you fight the Koro. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll put it on the screen. That right there was, had to be my favorite part. Now, another plus of this game is that you can customize your mech. And I will say you probably spend a lot of time, if you really care about how your mech look, you will spend a lot of time in this area. I will say they have a pretty sizable customization list. Some of them you probably won't use, but they have a lot. They have a lot of them. And I wouldn't say they have like too much, but I will say they have enough where you will spend at least 10 minutes probably sitting there trying to customize your mech. Now, when you start unlocking more things and buying more things, yes, the game also has like a currency, But when you start, and you earn it by doing missions, of course, but you start, buying more customizations for your thing. And you also can unlock, emblems and customization by the arena, via the arena. There is a part of the game where you can fight other robots or mechs, and there's a class, I think, is it E, and then is it F, E, and I think S rank, I think that's the class, but F being the lowest one, and then E being the medium, and then S being the highest tier. But you do unlock things via the arena, and you can also unlock cosmetics, and these cosmetics can be just weapons, it can be emblems, it can be a part of a mech that you fought, and you can unlock it via the arena or the training spot. I think that's another spot you can unlock things if you go into the training. I didn't really finish the training, but I did finish all of the arena, and I will say you can unlock there. You can unlock towards the missions. If you do all the missions, you can unlock certain mechs there too. And I will say, yes, you can customize a lot. I think there are about 8 spots that are the main part you can customize, and I think it's your shoulder weapons. You can customize your left, your right shoulder. You can customize your arm, and by customize, I mean, you can change those, and you can also put colors, different color patterns. You can create your own emblem. Remember Call of Duty? Just like that. You can create your own image. I've seen some crazy ones. I've seen somebody create Optimus Prime. I don't know how, but they create, I don't know if it's a mod, but they created Optimus Prime, which is cool. I've seen some other robots that looks very nice. But yeah, so the customization is actually a plus in this game, I will say. I don't know how it was in the previous games, but you can compare it there. I'll put it on the screen, but if you played the older games, you can compare that. But I will say it's still pretty cool to do. I felt like a kid going in and just customizing my mech and going in and just customizing it. But I will say the first mech I made is arguably the best looking mech in the whole, and all of anybody that created their mech. I had the best looking mech. I don't care what anybody said, but my just going in and just being able to just put random colors, random stuff you could do in there. I think that's a plus of this game. Being that it is $60, they didn't make you pay for a better mech in the game. I mean, you got to give, I shouldn't have to give credit to the game for that, but I will say everything in there is for free. Everything you can unlock yourself and you can play to get. And this is what games should be about. I should be able to unlock, things via playing. I shouldn't have to go into a store and buy cosmetics like Halo Infinite. I know this is all subject, but I shouldn't have to go and buy a mech, arm, or a mech leg or something, or some type of color scheme or camouflage. I shouldn't have to go buy that. I should be able to just unlock it during the game and customize my mech how I would like it, right? And I think I shouldn't have to give it discredit, but since all of the games now that are coming out are, you have to pay for microtransactions, I have to give this game credit. I didn't have to do that. I just had to play, and I unlocked things. Even towards the end, you unlock this I think it's a missile launcher. It is, I think, one of the best missile launchers in the game, and you unlock it towards the end. And I think that's how every game should be. You unlock the best thing towards the end, right? And you didn't have to buy it. You didn't have to go out and purchase microtransactions, like I said. And I will say customizing your robot has to be a plus in this game. It's pretty cool. Yes, it doesn't have the most customization, but I will say it has enough to keep you there, and you can do many builds differently, different looks. You do have, I noticed that throughout the game, you have this like energy loader that you have to watch out for. This is kind of like Souls now, the more I'm thinking about it. But if you remember Souls, you had you couldn't wear, if you didn't have enough strength, you couldn't wear certain armors. You would your energy or your yeah, your energy would just be pretty low when you use them. And it's just like this in this game. But I noticed also, this is where it's different from Souls. If you have a certain bottom part of your mech, so depending on your bottom part of your mech, you cannot carry, there's gonna be a capacity, you know, like for your arms and your upper part. So me, I was using the kangaroo legs. I call them the kangaroo legs because they jump pretty high and they move very fast, but you will see it on the screen. I use the kangaroo legs, and I noticed there are two different ones. There are one that can support heavy load, and then there's one that is a lot quicker but cannot support heavy load. And I will say that depending on your bottom mech, you won't be able to. So if you have like a small bottom mech, or like bottom part of your mech is small, or your legs is like small, not heavy enough, you won't be able to support heavy armor, like heavy core part. The core part you won't be able to support. And I will say that you just have to look out for that. And that also minimize just you throwing random, you know, builds apart. Like I can't just put the big chunky core and then big armor head and big arm and then have a small bottom. So it's kind of realistic in that sense. But I will say you can have like tank bottoms. There are tank bottoms. Like I said, there are the kangaroo legs, and then there are some that looks just like Optimus Prime, Transformer bottoms. I don't know the names, but that's how I remember them. And then you have, you have those, and like I said, I use the kangaroo legs, and I will say those were the ones I stuck throughout the whole game because they were fast paced. And I will say you have to be fast in this game. You can't be slow. You just if you have a slower build, you're gonna have to have enough AP in order to survive. If you don't, you will less likely be able to beat bosses, especially the ones that are fast. And that's why I would give about this game. Certain bosses you have to change your build. It would be pretty hard to beat. Like say I can't go against an AC with the tank bottom. Maybe it's me personally, but I tried this multiple times. I can't beat an enemy AC with just a tank bottom because it's too slow. I will have to be moving around and being faster than the other AC. But I can beat another tank bottom, with the tank build, if that makes any sense. But I also can, but the problem is you can also overpower another tank build with just being faster than them. So that right there, I don't know what that's probably just a balancing issue, but I will say that just use the fast the faster you are, the better it is. You can go with the tank, which is cheese at sometimes, but most of the time you will be able to get overpowered by the ACs if you can't track them in time and if they're moving too much, So yes, I was, like I said, customizations are pretty cool. You will spend a little bit of time on them. I think you will have, you will find it as a plus to just sit there and customize your mech. I did see some outrageous mechs, but after that, that's just the customization part. It's pretty cool. Now the story is pretty generic, if I may say so, but I will say it's not as memorable, to be honest. At first I wasn't even really focusing on it too hard, but I do know what's going on now though. But it's not that memorable. It's not that good. Maybe because I don't know the lore, as the people would say, but I don't really find it too memorable. But I will give you a brief summary. So if you don't want to know about it, if you think this is spoilers territory for you, go ahead and skip this part. But your mech was just sent into this planet called Rubicon, right, which has coral on it. And coral, if I'm not mistaken, is to enhance the mechs, or they were used to enhance the technology that was around, right, the human technology. And I think everybody now, from what I remember, everybody's looking for it. You were sent to go look for it. You do have 3 companions during the story. You have you start off with Walter, I think was the first guy that you got, which sent you to a bunch of missions. Then you finally met another robot lady. I don't know if it's a human being. It's a robot lady named Ari. I don't know how to pronounce that, but you do fight. I fought her towards the end. I don't know what type of ending that is, but I did fight her towards the end. And then you have Carla, which is another mech. She seemed like some type of cyberpunk type, lady, if I'm from what I was getting. But by cyberpunk I mean like all those punk rock people, but whatever, right? So you had Carla, you had Walter, and then you had Ari, and then of course you had yourself, 621, and then you had other bad guys. I forgot their name, but we all went to Rubicon. Everybody's searching for this coral thing, and that's why you got to fight the coral boss, because we finally made it to the coral area, where you can get it, and you had to fight the boss first for it. And I will say it is pretty generic, because it's not anything special, but I will give From Software this credit though. I love how they strictly kept this game robotic. There was no human beings, no emotional people in there. We didn't get to see, you ever watch the Transformer movies, and they have like human beings, that stories you have to follow, and you don't really care, because I'm here for the robots. I'm not here for the human beings. I have to give From Software this. I didn't see not one human being during this game. Not one. And I have to give them credit, because I think people see this as a negative, but I see it as a positive. I think having the game strictly around robots and mechs is perfect. That's like good. We don't have to deal with no human dramas. Yeah, there's conflict between the two factions or whatever, right? But you don't get to see that. It's strictly you go in, you fight robots, you fight bigger robots, and you get out. I have to give the game that, I have to give them that plus. That's a plus for me. I did see online that people were talking about how this game story is bad because of that. And I have to come around and tell you, I think that's a plus. Because, like I said, it's kind of hard to write a story like that, especially with no humans, without showing not one human. And I will say they executed pretty good. Yes, it wasn't memorable. Yes, it wasn't, as impactful. But I will say that is a big plus for me. And I can say the ending part where you fight Ari, that was my ending. I think I don't know how many endings, probably like 4 or 5. I didn't really go and research, but I did see another one. I did see multiple actually, but you can fight. I fought Ari at the end, right? And if I'm being honest, yeah, it was pretty sad. Boss was pretty memorable. The theme song was pretty good, but her just you were a partner with her, and then I end up siding with Carla. I think that's what made her turn on me. So then you had to fight her, and beating her it wasn't a good thing. You didn't feel good about it. Just what the quotes she was saying during the game. I will say yes, that was pretty good. But again, that was the only part of it that I really cared about. After that, all the other major parts that happened wasn't on my radar. But you could argue that this game is not meant to be for story, but it does have one. So at least make it good if you're gonna, or make it memorable, make it impactful, make it something I would like to invest myself in. But it wasn't. I would say it was lacking there. But again, props to From Software for keeping it strictly robots. Now, after all this information dump, Gibby, what didn't you like about this game? I will say I have a couple of things that I didn't like. I think the game got very repetitive towards the halfway mark. It started off fine, where you're killing, they send you here for a mission, you kill robots, and you come back, right? And I don't have a problem with linear. I will say this is a +1 actually for this game, that it's not open world, it's not overly big, it's not. I'm getting tired of open world, so I will say this is a plus, even though this shouldn't be a plus, but this is a plus that it is strictly linear, and you go in, you do your mission, you get out. That's good for me. But I will say, just I think they could have made more. Well, they had gimmick boss, but they could have had more gimmick boss. I think I would have enjoyed it more if they had more of them, because they would have made it a little bit different. And I think they should have had more of those missions. There was one mission I've played where you had to go into this underground spot and it was about to explode and you had to get out. And I think missions like that, they should have implemented more, instead of just sending you places, get information, come back, or send you place and you shoot a little bit of robots and you come back. There were a lot of those missions, more than there were missions that, you know, were more, you know, more memorable. You know what I mean? So like I said, there were missions where there was, I think one, I remember you had to get out of the place because it was blowing up, and you did fight a boss there, and then, you know, you had to go look for information, and you find out, you know, that spot was abandoned or whatever, and it was about to explode, and your mech had to get out of there. I think you were dying as you were trying to leave, and I will say that those were pretty good. And also those gimmick bosses, there were bosses where you had to take down this huge like mech, I don't know, this huge robot, and you had to take it down. I think missions like that I wish they would have added more. But after that, most of the missions just go here, kill robots, and if you get a generic AC boss, you beat it. But then there are other missions where you go kill robots, and then you kill a boss that's a main boss at the end. And yes, the main boss are fun, but when I tried, there are certain parts where I try to skip that part and just get straight to the boss, but you have to beat it's like the main mission is you have to kill all of the mechs there, and then you have to move on to the other area, and then you have to kill more mechs, and then you have to move on to the other area and then kill more mechs, and then a boss, which I may say gets very repetitive. And also, level design was lacking for this game. Also, something From Software does pretty well in their Souls game is level design, and I did not see this here at all. Yeah, the game can be linear, but good God, give it, you know, some level designs. You know, a good level design will make a game too. And I think they were lacking there a lot. I think musically wise, that's another thing From Software does pretty well, is theme songs, and that's something they're also lacking here also. I think those are the core things that make up a pretty good game, especially a From Software game, and they are lacking there. And major thing has to be the repetitiveness, and the level design is lacking hard, like very, very, very hard. It's literally a hallway. This game is literally a hallway. You go here, you know, you go straight, kill robots, and then you this is why I say it's not a masterpiece, and then you kill the boss at the end. If they had some pretty good level design, I would say it would level up. It would be in a pretty good category. It would be in a great category, but it is lacking some of those things I just said. And I think that's about what I disliked, to be honest. After that, I will say gameplay wise, it was pretty fun. I will say maybe tone down the bullet sponging, tone down the bosses moving way too fast. I think that was probably a thing that was not my favorite thing. I was getting very frustrated with certain bosses because they were moving way too quick. Like the Coral boss and the end boss, man. The end boss has to be broken. Every time I try to shoot at it while it's ahead of me, it would just zoom in my towards my back. And this is when I didn't realize that you could lock on. Even when you lock on too, you have the lock on. She would move so fast you cannot see. Like, you won't be able to see. And I think, like I said, the camera is also a problem, man. I would die just because sometimes the boss, like I said, would teleport behind me and my camera would just go crazy and the lock on just can't keep up. And I think that's just I don't know if it might be a balancing issue there, but I think that would make it very frustrating for the user to play. And yes, the combat's innovated on or it gotten better from the previous games, but still, man, I think just making the bosses too quick and too fast, and the lock-on system not being able to keep up sometimes. It's just, you know, it's not, it makes that's a downgrade for me. And also going to certain areas and just having to shoot a lot of robots gets, like I said, repetitive. And I don't know, man. I think that's something, again, I think that's something From Software usually do great, is the level design, you know. And here it was not there. It was lacking severely, and that, I think that's what's keeping this game from being ultimate great, you know. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's a masterpiece there, because again, it's lacking all of those. But yeah, that right there is, those are the things I didn't like. I'm not gonna try to go further. I can't think of anything else I really didn't dislike, but that's gonna be it. Again, you guys let me know what you guys think about Armored Core from what you've seen. If you played the game, what do you think? If you haven't played the game, or if you're asking me is it worth it, I think if it goes on sale, yeah, you will actually enjoy your time. It is $60, it's not $70. That's another plus. Also, again, yeah, I would say wait on sale, but if you do want to pick it up and you have the $60 to spare, then yeah, I think you'll enjoy it for the time. There is New Game Plus. There is online mode. Oh yeah, another thing that is lacking also, I forgot to mention, is that there's no split screen. And I did try the online. It's not, yes, I guess it's okay, but I was looking for split screen mode where if I want to play with my brother or something, I get to play, but there's no split screen mode. I don't know, maybe you found it, you can tell me in the comments, but from what I've seen, I didn't see no split screen mode. So I will say that's another minus for it. I don't know why games, for some reason, every modern game, for some reason, split screen is just becoming a thing of the past now. And it's like, I still have people I can play games with, man. let me have split screen mode to play. I think the older ones did have it, if I remember correctly, but again, that's another thing that's lacking. You guys let me know what y'all think. I know this video is kind of long for this review, and maybe this is not going to be the most popular review, but I will say I did enjoy the game. I would recommend it if you never played Armored Core. Yeah, I would recommend it. It's good. I don't think it's going to be game of the year, of course, because there are too many big games coming out, and this game's not as popular, and I don't think it left an impact in the gaming industry. So I will say, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be game of the year, but I will say I would recommend it. Yeah, so you guys let me know what you think. I'm not gonna stall any longer. Let me know what you think in the comments, what you think about this game, and I'll see you.